It all begins with a simple question, one that was never meant to be answered. Most people will merely ask the question without expecting any kind of response. Maybe that's for the best. For the others, the ones who demand an answer, it's the start of true understanding. They begin to see the lies and conspiracies for what they are, threads and evidence that lead to the truth. They see the connections behind seemingly unconnected events and begin to learn about the powers that actually shape our world. Random events conspire to form the greater picture. It's only a matter of finding how the pieces fit, and you will see the puzzle for what it really is. After that, you can't help what you will become. Some succumb to madness or paranoia. Some disappear from the world. And others, well, others end up like me. My name is Michael Ford. I'm probably the only one left who knows the truth. I know because I was there.
This is Michael Ford. He's possibly the second best protagonist I've ever had the pleasure of controlling in a video game. And when I was a kid, he blew my goddamn mind. Back in the ancient year of 2010, the only console I had was a Nintendo Wii, and I was sick of playing Sega Superstars Tennis all the time. So I convinced my mom to buy me a new game. Now, as a kid, going into a second-hand game shop was a dream. At least for a poor kid like me. For some reason, amongst all the Super Smash Bros. And Mario Galaxies, I saw the box art for a special edition of the Conduit and knew I had to play it. Didn't even look that good, it's just some Illuminati pyramid hovering over an ocean. Something just told me that this was the best shooting game on the Wii. I'd actually heard nothing about the game, I don't remember any marketing or advertisements at all, I just saw it on a shelf and impulsively wanted it. Though, after doing a little research, this game was undertaking quite a task. The Conduit was actually intended to give the Wii a rival shooter to compete with the PS3 and Xbox 360. Shooters were a pretty growing market at the time, so it was a solid time to step in and try their hand at it. So, does Michael Ford and his supernatural balls still deliver the goods? Well, yeah, but in a completely different way. This is a game meant to be taken seriously. The plot is full of conspiracies and supernatural alien beings and portals that can teleport you places. Michael Ford wants the truth, and he's having zero laughs on the way. If you want to hear the full story, here's the Wikipedia synopsis. Basically, there's a guy who wants to take over the world, so Ford is going to go stop him, but wait, it was actually the other guy all along, and now you swap sides like a good boy so you can save the Earth from mind control or some shit. I didn't pay attention much to specifics. It used to seem cool when I was a kid, but now it's actually kinda hilarious how hard they tried. The highlight of this whole ordeal is Mr. Ford himself. He's a serious guy with a serious attitude, and he just goes around saying serious stuff so you know he's serious and cool. He doesn't quip or really do much except follow orders and have a deep voice. Your main source of dialogue is John Adams and Prometheus. These two guys are pretty mental. Adams is the good guy for like 2 missions until Prometheus says he's not and you instantly believe him and get given the ASE. The ASE is the all-seeing eye. This little metal football is the main gimmick of the game, letting you scan walls for cryptic serious scriptures and using it to unlock doors. It's like an all-access hacker that purposely limits itself. Then Prometheus is inside it and can talk to you and is essentially your sidekick from now on, so you can have some back and forth that they don't have. So when a lot of my childhood essentially revolved around this game, it's hard to say that I could dislike it. I do still get a kick out of replaying it, and hearing Michael Ford try and blow my mind again with his pretentious bullshit is thoroughly entertaining.
What is happening to me?
Then they do something that as a kid I genuinely thought was really awesome. End on a cliffhanger. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe it's because I thought it was really mystical and cool. Like, they're leaving us on a cliffhanger. Wow! That's so cryptic. The game starts with you going through a conduit, and the rest of the game is a flashback, ending with you replaying that beginning moment. Overall, it's pretty satisfying to go through the game and finally end up where you started again, just to be slapped across the face and told you have to wait for a possible sequel, like a good whore. Unfortunately, I never had the chance to play the sequel, so when I played it recently for this video, I was going in with fairly unbiased eyes. Conduit 2 has changed almost everything I can think of from the Conduit. Apparently, the Conduit 2 was too hard for people to say, so they altered it for your speaking pleasure and delivered us Conduit 2. Along with this change, almost everything else has changed. Conduit 2 starts off directly after its predecessor. Michael Ford has just emerged from the conduit he stepped into at the end of the previous game and is now in some sort of location where the Trust are holding out. The Trust being the Illuminati group he was trying to stop before we had to stop and pay up for Disc 2. The first thing to notice is that every voice actor has been recast, meaning we have to adjust to completely new voices for every single familiar character.
Epic fail!
This isn't so bad when you play the sequel 7 years after the original, though I still think the new voices don't really fit the characters as well.
Michael, are you alright?
Sometimes building planners save time and money by repeating the same structure multiple times. Just like in your Earth video games.
Except apparently this conduit went into a different dimension, because Mr. Ford has gone through quite the personality switch. I guess it's time to throw my Michael Ford fanfiction out of the window, because he's not the bland, serious character we used to know and love. Remember when I said he was having no laughs in his journey before? Yeah, well, he's decided he's tired of acting tough, and he's just going to be a cool, chill guy now, and blast out quips like he's Leon S. Kennedy.
Nag. What are you, my mother?
So with old Mr. Ford gone, I've decided to dub this new guy, Mikey. Prometheus and Adams seem to be the same with new voices though, so nobody really cares about them. So after slugging this guy a new one and doing that, we get control of Mikey, and immediately you'll notice the cursor isn't moving around the whole screen due to this game having fucking controller support. This is 100% the best feature added, since I can now actually enjoy controlling Mikey and not tolerate having to wave the white baton with buttons around like a jackass. Though to detract from the immersion, you no longer have to invent your own quips anymore. Mikey's chock full of stupid shit to say to let his personality truly shine.
Inner chambers? Sounds kinky.
Sure, some lines are a little outdated and really out of place, but it's what the people were begging for. Apparently, many people said the original story sucked harder than Your Mom on a Weekend, so they had to make some compromises. It's like they've gone half and half, keeping the original classic coffee we all remember that is a really overly cryptic, all over the place plot, but added a little too much milk with the constant quips and sarcasm from old Mikey boy.
Michael, look out!
For once I'm glad that I missed a train.
Technically, the train missed you.
You really know how to ruin a great quip, don't you?
Well, along with his new fancy personality, he also gets a new fancy suit to go along with it, and he gets called the Destroyer, because the writers are on strike that day. It doesn't really mean anything, except the arms you see are different, and I guess he looks cooler because he's basically a Spartan now. So let's try something seemingly impossible, and talk about something that's not Mikey for a while, to go on about the actual game. So I thought I'd give a quick short description of the small things I noticed that changed from the first game that just aren't as important as Mikey himself. So you can now sprint, which is pretty useless anyway, since you run slower than the progression towards My Happiness. There are added iron sights, which go great with the controller support, which also was added by the way. More guns, missions, and new characters are introduced, and they're all pretty on par with what you expect for the game. There are plenty of weapons to choose from, and most are pretty unique, ranging from plasma to regular realistic guns to alien weaponry. Overall, they all feel nice to use, but are quite clearly imbalanced. There are also several turrets you can use within the game, but only when the game tells you that you need them, so for like 2 missions. Some enemy types have destructible armor that you can shoot off of them, and depending on where you shoot them, the piece of armor will end up coming off, for example for their arms or legs. Though they all have giant ass heads anyway, so it's kind of hard to avoid shooting them there. Each level also finishes with a boss, meaning there are 4 bosses in total, though one of them is a turret section, so it doesn't really count. They're all pretty easy. I maybe died once on the first time I did them, but you basically just have to be patient and wait for them to finish attacking, so you can go over and slam the barrel of your gun into their weak spot. It makes a nice change from the original, which didn't have bosses, just some occasional wave-based shooting. Oh, don't worry, there is a couple of wave-based shooting in this too, they'd otherwise be missed. There are also various mini-boss kind of enemies that appear. Some offer a nice challenge and require the right amount of dodging and knowing when to shoot, though some of them are laughably easy and simply require you to hold back and shoot a full clip into their face. Don't worry though, all of them have some obnoxious one-hit kill for extra added challenge. For the most part, Conduit 2 improves upon its daddy in a lot of ways. It looks nicer, plays nicer, and has a lot more variety to it. Though the character changes blow my mind for all the wrong reasons and leave me struggling to contain my laughter at the cringy lines being spewed from Mikey's gaping pie hole. Aside from some cheap deaths, bad lip syncing,
How do you know that.
Hilarious animations and cringy writing. The overall gameplay and experience gotten from Conduit 2 is certainly completely different to the first, though just as compelling. The second game has taken a complete U-turn to the whole other side of hilariously overdone lines and plot. It really does work for a fun time in the end. There aren't enough mid-budget shooters around these days to fill the hole left by Michael Ford and Mikey, meaning that going back to get my fix all over again was certainly refreshing. I'll always have a place inside of me for these games to fill, and I can only hope that one day we'll see some kind of return to the forgotten mid-budget titles that plagued us for years. Also, apparently there's an Android port or something.